Hey guys, so today I'm making a video installing a downpipe on a 2024 MK8 GOLF R. So for this video I'm missing a bit of audio because I was listening to music in the background, so I had to mute it out, but I'm going to narrate me going through doing this downpipe install. It's my belief that I am the first person to do this on a MK8 in their garage, at least the first person who said anything. So the first step was to actually disconnect the level sensors for the wheels that are connected to the control arms. And you can see there's a bracket there. You don't have to remove it, but you actually have to unplug it. Next, I removed the bolts that hold the ball joints to the control arms. These are super simple to take off. They're not bolts or nuts, but you know what I mean. After that, what I did is I removed the front sway bar links directly from the sway bar. I was also putting a sway bar in during this, but I cover that in a different video. The thing about doing this install on the 8R is that you actually have to drop the front subframe, but you don't have to touch the drive shaft, and I could not get a straight answer on how this works anywhere else. So that's why I decided to make this video. Here you can see now I'm taking off the Dogbone mount that goes from the front subframe to the transmission. It's really important to lever the transmission forward and not force these out, not just hammer these out with an impact, because you can strip the threads. It's really easy. These are threads to be treated very gently. You can see here I'm exclusively using my hands. So now with that removed, what I'm proceeding to do is take off the small bolts that go to the bottom of the rear subframe brackets. You can see I flashed it on the screen here, or up front. And I'm taking these out, basically taking all bolts out except for the 4 that go into the subframe, between the subframe and the chassis, that hold the subframe in. Next here you can see I'm taking the downpipe hanger off again, cleaning up the subframe, taking basically everything off of the subframe so I can safely drop it. Next I'm taking off the steering rack bolts. So there are two, I think 18 mils, they hold the steering rack on. I'm taking these out because we're leaving the steering rack in the car. These should be replaced too. I have previously had these loosen up on me, so I would never reuse these. Yeah. So now here I am in a good position where all that's holding the subframe on now are the 4 mounting bolts. So here you can see I'm taking out the front 2, just using an impact with a long extension. These are 18 millimeter bolts, not reusable either. Super easy with my Milwaukee impact. These are torqued down to like 70 Newton meters plus 180, so if you're using a breaker bar, you probably want a cheater bar. It took me a cheater bar to tighten them up correctly, so. Now I'm undoing the 2 that go into the rear brackets. It's suggested somewhere to undo the front, then undo the rear. And now you can see subframe is dropped down. I had a jack holding it up, and now here I am in the process of lowering it. You have to maneuver it off of those 3 studs on the ball joints. You also have to be careful on the driver's side. There is a steering rack wiring harness that is attached by a push pin to the top of the subframe near the front subframe bolt, one of those 4 we took out. So you always have to make sure to remove that. I've broken that bracket on a previous car, so it's good to watch out for. But yeah, now I have everything free and I am maneuvering it down, lowering it slowly. And yes, it's possible to do this as a one-man job. Honestly, no problem at all for me. Got it down nice and smooth. The quick jacks help though. Having all that clearance is insane. It's not much more than truck jacks, so if you have truck jacks, you can do this at home on jack stands, but it's just easier to put up. So here you can see now I have the subframe out, I have the steering rack supported just on a jack stand. And what I'm doing now is I'm loosening the rear hanger, or sorry, the rear bracket, little sleeve clamp thingy that holds the downpipe on. So these are 13 mils. They're pretty easy to take off, although if you leave these on for a few years and the nuts are facing the wrong way, then you might have a bad day. So now the rear of the downpipe is loosened and I'm taking off the lower O2 sensor. It's good to have an O2 sensor socket. I actually had to use a cheater bar to get this off. It was just really hard to get enough leverage from underneath. You can see here I'm struggling to get the sensor socket on because of the shielding on the cable. And then here I am loosening it. I cut to having it uninstalled, so you can see here, use some penetrating fluid, PV blaster, cheater bar, got it out, real easy, no problem at all. It's always good to take this off before you take the downpipe out. Now I had to lower the car down, and I'm taking off the top O2 sensor. On the Mark 8s, the O2 sensor is actually on the downpipe, whereas on the Mark 7s it was on the turbo. So you can see here I'm putting some penetrating fluid. I'm also going to take off the V-band clamp here, so it's nice to use some penetrating fluid just to make the job easier. I also unplugged this O2 sensor just to not have tension on it while I'm unwinding it. I really like this style of O2 sensor socket. It's treated me very well, being able to put a real ratchet on. It's quite difficult to get this off. You can see here I came back with a vengeance and a cheater bar, and no problem at all, right off. And I spun it out. Now I'm using an actual Allen key on this V-band because it was really difficult to get any socket on this. Usually I flip this around when I reinstall. Super easy to get the V-band off. I just held it up on the turbo. And now the car goes back in the air. And here I am taking off the bracket that goes around the axle. These are 8mm, kind of weird hex nuts on studs. Took this one off with my impact wrench, pretty easy. The next one I had to kind of maneuver. So what I did is I actually loosened the downpipe bracket to get a little bit more clearance. Push the downpipe up a bit, and then loosen that top 8mm hex. Here you can see I'm using a 13mm wrench. That's all I could get onto this. It looks like you could fit a socket on, but it was just so difficult. I couldn't even get a ratcheting wrench on this, actually. I tried it. But at least there's only one instead of two that were on the Mark 7. And you can see there's some clearance. And maneuvering out that hex nut. That was a bit of a difficult maneuver for me. And with that extra space, you can see here, finally I got that hex nut off. Now, brackets out, downpipe is detached from the engine block, both O2 sensors are out. There's literally nothing stopping me from just taking this downpipe out, and that's what I do. And it came out like money. Like, this was easier than on the Mark 7, just letting the steering rack down a little bit. I had it on bungee cords here, so don't worry too much. But, like, I swear to God, this took me less time than it did on the Mark 7 because I spent so much time struggling getting it out on the Mark 7. And you can see here, downpipe came out, no scratches. There it is next to the Trackslag pipe. And yeah, downpipe out of the car. Now it's time to put in this Catless freaking monster. You can see here, the cut point is basically in line with where those two empty catalytic converters are. And you can just see how beautiful that Trackslag pipe is. And how nice the flex joint is. It looks OEM. Here you can see I actually ended out using an extra mount that I had because I had kept one for my Mark 7 and it seemed a little difficult to reinstall. Now here I'm just taking a few little shots of the turbo, seeing what it looks like with the downpipe out. Nobody else has a video that I was able to find showing this off, so I'm figuring, you know, maybe people are curious to see what can you access. Maybe if you were doing a turbo, for example. You can see it's really similar in terms of the Mark 7, aside from that one extra heat shield at the top, in terms of clearance and everything. So if you want to put a new turbo on, it does not look that bad. Here are a few images of the turbo setup as well. Again, really similar to the Mark 7, lots of room. There's a new compressor wheel, wastegate. And what I did to install this downpipe is, I didn't want to have any scratches or fingerprints on the pipe, so what I did is to reinstall a wrapped with a bubble wrap that actually came with my H&R sway bar. And here you can see me maneuvering it in. There's actually so much clearance that it was very, very simple to maneuver it in, and obviously it being half the length, it's just that much easier. So yeah, here I am making a hole just so I can secure the downpipe on by the bracket. I just wanted to get a few threads in to hold the downpipe up. That way I could attach the V-band and then attach the rest of the pipe so it could be held up by the extra exhaust hangers. Put a bit of anti-seize on this fastener as well, just because I wanted to keep my life easy in the future. It came out easy this time, and I want that to continue being the case. So I didn't get myself putting that bolt in, but got it in. Now here you can see the downpipe is held up by just that one little, I guess, screw into the engine block, and it still has all the bubble wrap on it. And now all the install is basically the same as the uninstall. So what I did here is I tied up all the exhaust clamps, ripped off that bubble wrap, and you can see here, very happy with how this fits. It's quite a tight fit, I must say, but the pipe just looks amazing. Beautiful Catless pipe, 4 inches of glory. And look at that, now that I have the subframe in, all the clamps tightened up and clocked correctly, looks awesome. So yeah, here's the pipe installed. Here I am lowering the car down, ready for the first start, and holy shit, it's loud.